Okay, so when we started on this build, Tucker, what was the plan?
Get it done easy, fast.
Done easy, fast. I mean, just slam it together. Quick, easy rock crawler. No panels, no aluminum, no nothing, no TIG welds, MIG welds, stick welds. Fuck, we were gonna use condom wrappers and twisted T-cans to hold this motherfucker together. And then shit like this starts happening. It's a fucking lost cause. It's whose fault is this? Yours.
Serious.
It can't be my fault. I have a fucking race car with bead rolled parts sitting outside. Why would I need two?
Well, you have to.
You're right. Maybe it is my fault. But it looks fucking awesome. All right, let's get on to actually building something. Lay these panels out, kid. You're a smooth operator with that Sharpie. But can you bead roll as straight as you can write with a pencil or a pen?
I was using a straight edge.
I was not using a straight edge, and you can tell. That thing looks like a hot dog down a hallway. But they'll work. You're going to roll this thing over and smash them anyway.
I won't, you will.
What do we got here? A box. Think that'll hold any fluid? Because somebody's going to say, hey, that's not going to hold any water. Correct. You'd have a wet box. Ooh, we're getting onto some sides. Better get them put in CAD. Two types of CAD. Cardboard aided design and real CAD. Right?
Computer aided design.
That's right. Now we got to send her over to the old mac and cheese machine. There she is. This tank is made out of 3/16 aluminum, by the way. So we'll get the top ripped out, see how it fits the chassis, and then I think we got to do some bending. So there's the top half. You can see right about there. We got to put a slight bend in it. Still got to come up with a way to mount the fuel pump. Got to figure that out. Nice. Contours to the chassis, nice and clean. There's going to be a little metal tabs underneath there. So this tank's a little bit different than previous tanks that I've done. The tank essentially, the whole bottom half is going to weld to the lid. So these are the sides. They'll get fully welded by those circles. And then the tank is actually going to hang in the chassis. Boy, that is cleaned up nice. You want to weld it together, Tucker?
I can't weld that.
Not with that attitude.
Well, all the way, I can tack it together.
Looks tacked to me. And we can only tack the tops. We don't want to fully weld nothing because this tank's still got to get baffles, but I don't have what we need. So now we got to make the bottom. Keep it square. Still got to figure out the fuel pump hanger. And we're going to put a piece right there, apparently. All right, we're on to the bottom. Look at that, Jed clampet angle iron trick. If you're a welder, you know how well that works. I think we're going to bend it in that machine. We're going to take that piece of material, put it in that machine, bend it, and then put it back on the tank. I think that's how that works. Woo! Would you look at that? She's bent up. Now we got to tack it together. Dang, man, this is awesome. I like how this stuff just happens. Isn't this awesome?
It's pretty freaking cool.
It is. It is very cool. Look at that. Now it's already back in. Holy smokes. What do we got to do now? We got it all tacked up.
It's the magical fairy that did it.
Oh, don't weld that. We definitely don't want to weld that. If we weld those two together, then we're really screwed because we got to put baffles inside here. We definitely do not want to weld that. Now I got to come up with some kind of idea to put the fuel pump in. What can we do? Fuel pump's got to sit about that high. Not really sure. We'll come up with something like this. Put a couple bends in that piece. That's going to drop down inside. Yeah, I think this is going to work. And that magic bending machine did it again. So those somehow got to get connected to each other. Not really sure how we're going to do that. Hey, look at that. It just happens. This is the coolest way ever. You just make a huge mess in your shop and then, I don't know, don't clean it. and then all of a sudden these parts just start showing up. But I need to clean the shop. It's a disaster. All right, well, while the shop is cleaning itself, I wasn't planning on fully welding the bottom of this, but went ahead, burned it all in. So this is welded as much as it needs to be welded. I can't weld it fully on the inside, and I can't weld the flange on there yet because there's baffling that has to go on the inside. And I'm waiting for an aluminum order to build some Badlands Jack off-road mounts, which I'll post a picture of them right here. And if you guys are interested in one of those, if you go over to our Stainless Frame Fabrication Facebook page, there's a pinned post that tells you, there's a PayPal link, tells you how much they are to ship. And if you guys are interested in one of those, you can buy them from that straight from the Facebook post. So we're gonna set the tank in. I think I'm gonna weld the filler on the back real quick, and I'll probably put the pump sending unit in. And then we're gonna call that good for welding on the tank today. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the other side. You can see we've got all these panels bead rolled. We cut those out last night. Get over here. We're gonna do the same thing over here. So we're gonna set the tank in, do that panel, hoping that the panel won't take too long, get that panel knocked out, and then we'll probably make the tabs that actually weld to the chassis that hold the fuel tank. And then at that point, the fuel tank will be pretty much ready for baffling. And then the next thing we're gonna do is we'll get the steering ram mounted. Then we can get the front diff painted, and we can get the clevis disorder up. I already have the Heim joints that we need for the steering, and I already have the link material. So we'll just keep chugging along. You know, like they say, how to eat an elephant, just one bite at a time. All right, so we're cooking pretty good on this tank. We got the filler tacked in. I got the fuel pump hanger all machined down, ready to fit flat. So I'm hoping we're just gonna, stick it on here and it's gonna tack itself up. Perfect. Apparently it needs to get welded on there too, so maybe that'll just happen. Maybe it won't. Maybe I'll actually have to weld that piece. I'm not 100% sure. All right, I'm pretty happy with this. So how this is gonna work is this top lid will get fully welded to the tank up in here. Okay, and then we're gonna put some trick little tabs, something like these guys here on the chassis, TIG weld them in, and there'll be 3/8 nuts welded to the bottom. And then the fuel pump hanger will hang in the top there. And the only reason I wanted to bump that thing up is if you look at the height of the fill, when you fill the tank full of fuel, it would be, if I put it in the bottom, you'd have constant fuel pushing up on the bottom of the gasket. Now that's not a big deal. It's just, it's a better chance of having a leak until it runs down to there. And I never had one leak, just because I kind of do them like this all the time. But it's just my way of knowing that fuel is just not gonna be sitting there pushing against that at all times. So we got a nice 2 3/4 inch fill, it goes right in the back. Then somewhere in this area, probably after the fan is mounted, I'm going to utilize these bolts, and there's going to be a basket that bolts in here, and the basket will have like a little floor in it to put a toolbox and things of that nature. The rear winch will sit in between the filler and back here, and we're not sure what winch we're even going to run yet. And then the battery, I was going to try to put the battery down in here somewhere to try to keep all of the weight right down the middle, trying to think of weight proportionate wise, climbing hills, going down hills, all that stuff. And inside that tank, it's going to be fuel injected, but inside that tank I'll build a grid that goes inside the tank, so this thing will pick up fuel pretty much on its side, upside down, straight up, straight down. It'll always get fuel. But coming along pretty good. So I think we're going to clean up our mess from that, and we're going to get jamming on the sheet metal next. All right, I got to trace some lines out inside there so we can pull the panel off. Once the panel's pulled, we set our offset, which is 3/4 of an inch, cut that with a skinny wheel. Before I know it, we'll have a bunch of panels in pieces ready for Tucker to lay out the bead roll. Okay, Tucker's going to get all of his inset lines for bead rolling. All the panels have been cut, trimmed. We're We're adding a couple panels up here. I'll show you where those go. So those 2 triangles, which equal 4 triangles, are going to go up in here, and that's going to be the start of the firewall. And then since we have the panels off this side, we're going to add more of these tabs in here. So we'll put, you know, a pretty liberal amount where we need them, basically because this paneling is so small and now it doesn't have all the tubes behind it to brace it. So that's what we're on to next, getting some bead rolling done. All right, so in this stage, we got our panel that used to be 1 panel is completely cut into 1, 2, 3 sections. Now, in order to get the panel to fit differently, because it's not a huge panel now, it's going to be 1, we're going to shrink the panel so it goes just inside the radius of the tube a little bit. And how I usually do that is I set up my little speed square, sliding T-square. I'll set this up, and I want to be basically 1 inch from the outside of this tube. So this is 1.5 inch tube. So 3/4 of an inch in is the center. But I want it to be just a skosh inside the radius. So I'll cut this one down and then install the other one, put my measurements on it, install the other one, put measurements on it. Then we'll go in, and from this line, we're going to be in 2.5 inches all the way around, and that's what we will bead roll all the panels at. Okay, make this line perfect. You cannot, no, never mind. You already messed it up. Still, you got to make it as perfect as possible. If you make it crooked, it's going to bead roll crooked. It's like drag racing or off-road racing. Wherever your eyes go, that's where you're driving. So keep that line straight as an arrow. All marked out, ready to bead roll. And man, I tell you what, I wish I had a better bead roller. So this little girl works. This is a Harbor Freight roller that years ago a friend of mine and I modified and built this backbone to it that you can swing these down and stiffen it up, because we've bead rolled some heavy stuff in it before. And I've gone through and modified the dies, turned them in the lathe, changed the bevel on them, done all kinds of weird stuff. But I mean, it gets the job done for a project like this. It works okay. But like when I do like legit race car stuff, if I'm doing like interior on a race car that's like a drag car, I actually will tape all the panels first, then mark them, and then that removes the scratch, you know, the risk of scratches. These, if they get scratched, this thing's getting wrapped, so you won't even see the scratches anyway. But so now we just need to slide those things through here, and they will magically appear done like this. Whee! Bead rolled parts, yay! So we got some pieces made to mount panels and the tank. So these we got to weld some 3/8 nuts on the back side. These got to get countersunk first, and then the nutsert goes in. So that's a tech tip for anybody that does nutsert stuff. If you countersink these parts, your nutsert will sit flush, and then your panel will sit flush to that. So let's get these welded up, get them countersunk, and then we can start TIG welding these tabs right here into the chassis and start mounting the rest of those panels. Grab some 3/8/16 nuts out of the bolt bin, got them TIG welded onto the bottom. Meanwhile, Tucker's doing some countersinking on the body panel tabs, so when we countersink them, then we set the nutserts in them, they sit flush. I'm getting everything laid out I need to get laid out so we can get the panel bolted back on. There's a ton of these tabs in this chassis. Look at them all. Yep, Tucker's getting his daily workout, getting that arm workout, setting them nutserts. When he came out to the shop this morning, I had a bunch more for him to do. He was thrilled, but now I got to trim this panel to fit. We kind of wild cut them before the final process. I'll get them trimmed. Tucker's onto the last couple holes to drill, and then that panel will be ready to go. So we just keep smoking these panels out one by one. Don't mess that up, Tucker. Killer weekend, boys and gals. So we have been cruising on the round eye project, and we're making some serious good progress. If you guys want to see, I can spin you around. Look at that. So the fuel tank's in. It's all mounted up. It's got some TIG welded tabs that run all the way across the bottom in there. So this deal that's in here right now, this is just for a manual pickup. We're gonna run a wall barrel pump. So that'll go down inside there, spin it around. When we do the fan that goes on the back, the fan will drop in right here, and there'll be a small little shroud because there's hot air obviously coming off of that. And something that I learned off-road racing, that air is actually hot enough to heat up the fuel lines, to add heat into the tank, and can cause some serious issues. Now, this thing's not racing through the desert. I mean, we're not gonna be hauling butt in this thing. It won't be getting that hot, but it's a good thing to think of. Well, panels look good. Other than, you know, some scratches, and somebody thinks they look tits, I guess. But we'll sand those out the rest of the way. You guys have seen the dash. We're starting on the roof. But we got all the sheet metal from the start of the firewall down that side. Start of this firewall down this side is all done. Which I'm pretty stoked, because I wanted this thing red from day one. From day one.
I wanted it blue.
What'd you say?
I wanted it blue. Blue and white.
Ford blue. Can't be Ford blue. Although I do like blue. Actually, I like blue a lot. But I wanted this thing so bad to match the 1311, which is red and black and gold and some other stuff. But Tucker and I were talking this morning, and I said, hey, hear me out on this. I got hot rod red vinyl here. It's left over from the roof of the race car. Let's do a couple panels so you can see it. And I had to really, really sell it to him. I was like, just close your eyes, think about it. Think about like being at King of the Hammers, sitting at the top of Chocolate Thunder, the 1311 4800 car sitting there glistening in the sun. Your rig is right next to it, and they match. How freaking cool would that be? Yeah, I don't know if he's okay with it or not, but you know what? I'm like majority owner of this thing now, so the bitch is getting red and gloss black. What?
You should have pitched like a slideshow or something.
Kids. So anyway, we'll get out of here. Stop rambling. Appreciate you guys watching the videos. It's really cool. And like I mentioned in the last video, people were buying merch, watching our YouTube videos. That is the freaking coolest thing ever. And the more we sell, the more we can just put that money right into these projects. The 1311 is coming in here next Thursday. So if this video uploads on time, today is Sunday. What's the date today? February 2nd? I think it's February 2nd. Could be somewhere on there. But the 1311 is coming in Thursday of next week. And we're going to start working on that one as well. So we're going to be working on both of them at the same time. I don't know why we do that. We're definitely not professionals. We know enough to do it wrong. So let's see if we can fuck up two of these things at the same time.